and I don't know, share some really fun, I think they're fun, that's up for debate, but we won't debate it now, information. Before we do that though, Christina is going to go over a couple of things regarding Rogo, and let me just say, this is awesome. So way to go, Christina, Morgan, Richie. We didn't even plan that. We already said that, and then Morgan passed it on, which was awesome.
Thank you. Very thank you. Yes.
We all, Matt, Richie when he comes in. So I just
School of Worship.
That's okay.
Just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to look this over so you have it. We're going to go over today in our home base at 3 o'clock with all the students when they come in. Actually leaders, let's be calling them leaders. But just wanted you guys to have some time to kind of thumb through it, and if you have any questions before we get into the home base today, feel free to ask myself or Morgan. But this is really just all of the content that we taught last year, deconstructed into a format that Pastor Dan Zimbardi, Pastor Fredo, and my husband are using for the leadership, theology, and spiritual formation training. So as tracks continue to develop within Rogo, they're looking to go this format just so that we keep things standardized. So we'll be putting together a teaching schedule, inviting some of you in to be able to speak into the trainings. Sorry, I've got something going on this morning.
Your smoking is definitely.
Yeah, so anyway, just super excited. This book was about $36, so please, I don't have replacements for you if you lose it. Please hold on to this, because if you are asked to teach for one of the trainings, this will be the tool that you'll use, and then we have all the answers for the fill-ins and things like that. That we'll
Put your name on it.
Differently. So anyway, we're just super excited. Thank you for all of the contributors to the content. Eddie was a big portion of that. Also, just last year as we were writing curriculum for Rogo. So super excited for this year. We start at 3 o'clock today in the game room. So if you guys could be there even just a few minutes before, just to be welcoming our leaders in, that would be fantastic. And Morgan got some yummy snacks. So really excited for today. If you're a mentor, just plan on this afternoon, probably around 4:15 we'll break. And that'll be the time for you to connect with the person that you are mentoring. Yes. Oh, and one last thing has nothing to do with Rogo. Who's going to San Bernardino this week? Anybody?
You little thief.
So this is the guitar strap from the guitar there that got into my case somehow when I led last weekend, and it needs right back. So if I can give it to you to give. Okay.
Mom has one too.
I saw a picture of Maria sitting on her stool at rehearsal, playing the guitar.
You're like,
My bad.
Right, you're missing something. Awesome. Thank you for your hard work on that. I'm excited. I just think this is going to be an incredible year of Rogo, and I think the Rogo class of 2019 is really strong, and just excited to see where it goes in the future and what God does. We're going to talk a little bit today about some goals that we have, and Rogo School of Worship is a part of that. But before we dive into anything, I want you, wherever you take notes, you have to write this somewhere. So either put it on your Google Docs, put it on your phone, put it on your, you can't just remember it, because we're going to go back to this. But somewhere in your stash of things that you remember, I want you to write this question. In 2019, how am I going to get better? In 2019, how am I going to get better? So as you write that and you think about that, I don't want you just to think about musically, although yes, musically. I want you to think about emotionally, I want you to think about spiritually, I want you to think about physically. These messages Pastor Matt's been doing about your best year ever. If church is a place where you're coming to do your best life's work, and it is, then you need to be your best self. And so if you can go back to your mind places where you weren't your best, where you haven't been your best, I feel pretty positive that you can link that to some sort of habit or relationship or situation in your life where you were not physically, spiritually, mentally your best. And that really contributed to your lack of being your best worship leader, being your best friend, husband, wife, sister, dad, any of that stuff. So the reason why we're going to talk about this now is because before we get into what we're going to collectively focus on and do as a team this year, know that what I'm saying to each of you personally, and those of you who aren't in the room, to you too, is I want your number one goal, above what we're going to talk about for our team, your number one goal to be, I am going to get better in 2019. And I want you to start thinking about what that means for you. So, when it comes to your job, when it comes to your role as a worship leader, I want you to set some personal goals for yourself. Here's where I want to get better. And we're going to talk about those in one-on-ones over the next few weeks. I'm going to give you time to think through this. You don't have to have them done by tomorrow. But here's where I personally want to be a better worship leader in 2019. These are the things that I want to work on. I want to know what those are. I want to come alongside of you. I want to pray with you, pray for you, encourage you, challenge you. And then I want you to share, hey, and here's how I want to get better, like in life. Here's how I want to stop eating nachos at 1:30 a.m. I want to, I want to be more diligent in my time with God. I want it to be more disciplined. I want it to be deeper. I want it to be more meaningful, whatever those things are. And I want you to share them with me. And then throughout the year, we'll kind of have some places where we'll share with each other. Here are things that I'm working on personally. But that is at the top of the top of the pyramid, I should say, in terms of as we move into this year, what we're going to work on, what we're going to focus on. Each of you individually saying, I'm committed to getting better this year. If you spend more than 10 minutes with Dan Zimbardi, he's talking about measurables, he's talking about goals, he's talking about what's your goal and how you're going to get there. Do your goals have handles on them? All of that kind of stuff. Because a lot of times we are good at going, I want to, but we haven't put anything in place for the how to. And Andy Stanley, one of my favorite quotes that I've ever read is direction, not intention, determines your destination. The direction of your life, rather than the good intentions that you have, really determine your destination. So if I said to you guys, I really want to lose 50 pounds this year, okay, that's what I want to do. If I don't put myself in a directional pattern to get there, I just talk about it. But every time we sit down for a team lunch, I'm inhaling the chips in the guac, and I'm always ordering dessert. But I keep talking about how I really want to lose 50 pounds. There's a disconnect between my intention and my direction. Okay, so goals are directional. They're much more, but they have to be intentional as well. Okay, so we're going to look at this awesome thing that Amber put together. Thank you, Amber. Thank you. These did not cost $36. They probably cost 36 cents, but you still need to keep it, okay? Because you just need to take care of your stuff. So let's start at the beginning. This is going to go up here too, but I want you to have a hard copy so that you can make notes if you want to. But I would rather be looking up here because I want to make sure that we're just all in sync with our vision and what it means. I'm going to go over this with people in Rogo because I want us to all just know here's what our vision is, here's what we're trying to do. So our vision as a team is to create a dynamic worship culture across Sandals Church. We've talked in the past a little bit about the word dynamic, something that's exciting, not stagnant, has movement and energy. It doesn't matter what campus you're attending, what campus you're at. but establishing a worship culture is deeper than establishing the worship experience. So I don't want it to be man, if you go to Palm Sunday night, that'll be amazing, but don't land at San Bernardino, because that's kind of going to be, that's not our goal at all. We're not winning if that's any sort of the mentality. Man, it'll be jumping at Hunter Park, but oh, look, guys, no, it's across the campuses of Sandals Church, including online, and we're going to talk about that too as we keep moving. So that's our vision. We'll keep going. And here are the 4 things that we've talked about. Here's how we're going to accomplish this. Meaning, as each of us take responsibility for these 4 things, we will see our vision come to life. We will accomplish this vision. So we've talked before about leading ourselves, working together, using our gifts, and empowering others. And now we're going to break those down, because here's the things that I want you to think about. As you kind of contemplate, what does it mean to lead yourself? Okay, so the first quote up there: to lead yourself, you must follow Jesus. And then in Luke 6:40, the student who is fully trained will become like the teacher. A disciple of Jesus looks like Jesus, talks like Jesus, acts like Jesus, cares for people like Jesus, loves like Jesus. When you spend time with someone over and over again, I think about, just in terms of like my marriage. So Adam and I have been married for 19 years in June. It was awkward to be married in middle school, but Jersey, things just work that don't go in other places. No. But that feels so long. I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes me feel like I'm like 57 years old or something. But just because of all of those years, there are so many things that I've just picked up, his traits and quirks and sayings and all that, just because of time spent with him. I get frustrated when I come across worship leaders and I talk to them and spend time with them, and I'm left wondering, how well do you actually know Jesus? How much time do you actually spend with Jesus? Because I just don't detect a trace of humility. I feel like this is your gig. You're on stage and you're all about it, and then you're off and you're done and you're doing something else. Like, being with Jesus just rubs off on you. And it doesn't matter what you are on the Enneagram scale. It doesn't matter like what your strong personality traits are. You just begin to pick up the ways of Jesus. And for each of you, when you think about that question, how am I going to become better? How am I going to become better in 2019 at leading myself? So the simple fact is, we can't lead people where we've never been. Oh, go back. Sorry. And in worship, that means in order to lead people into the presence of God, we need to first spend time there ourselves. The more you experience Jesus for yourself, the more you want others to experience him as well. That is the foundation of worship. That I have experienced Jesus. I have tasted and seen that he is good. And there is no substitution. There is no replacement. There is no other thing you could do, feel, see, experience that compares to that. And that's where I'm leading you to. That's what I want you to experience. That's the place I'm trying to take you. You are the only person responsible for your spiritual growth. And spiritual growth can't happen apart from time with Jesus. So I can't mandate your time with God. I can't, I remember in high school I went to a super legalistic church. We had to fill out quiet times, our quiet time journal, and get it marked every Wednesday. And I was always in the bathroom at Wednesday filling it out, because I hadn't done it, to get it signed off on. But someone was trying to mandate to me, spend time with God. You can't mandate that. You have to want it for yourself, and then you have to create the space and time for it to happen for yourself. And listen, if you are in a place in a season in your life where you're like, I want to spend time with God, I'm not sure what that looks like or how. Sometimes I hear worship leaders talking, it's like they're getting the manna from heaven. I'm like, I don't know where to start. Can I tell you, let's have a real conversation about that. Because we all hit ruts and seasons, and we all have to start somewhere. And if you're in a place where I want to know God, I want to spend more time with him, I've never been really disciplined about it. I haven't really done that in a way way that I feel like I get it's sustainable, then please, like, let's get some time together. I would love, love, love to sit down with you and just process what that could look like, because it is crucial to your ability to lead people into the presence of God. It has to be a thing. Like, it just has to be a thing. So I would love to connect with you about that. So when it comes to leading yourself, here are questions that I want you to ask yourself. What does my relationship with Jesus look like? So you need to have a time in a space where you sit back and you kind of evaluate your time with God. What does your relationship with Jesus, what does it consist of? What is your steady diet or lack of? Are you a malnutrition worship leader, or are you a robust, healthy worship leader? That all comes down to the core of how much time you spend with Jesus and what it looks like. Am I growing? Are you farther along with Jesus in January of 2019 than you were in January of 2018? If not, then you need to dig down into that and figure out why. Like, I've just kind of been in this rut. I do my 5 minutes, whatever. Then what might need to change? Like, what does that look like for you in order to get to a deeper place with God? And then how can I follow Jesus better this year than I did last year? One of the best things that I ever did to take my walk with God a step further was I committed to memorizing a certain amount of scripture verses. Because if I'm going to memorize verses, it means I'm reading them and studying them all the time. And honestly, in our day and age, because we have YouVersion and because we have easy access all the time, I just feel like scripture memory has become something that a lot of Christians just don't do. They just don't discipline themselves to do it. But I'm telling you what, in a moment of leading worship, when you're in this place of, man, there needs to be a verbal right here. There is no better filler than filling with God's word, right? Not like, what was that quote I saw on the back of that person's car when I was in the Del Taco line? No, it's just like, you can come through with Romans 8. You can come through with Romans 12. You can come through with something from the Psalms because it's right there. And that's why memorizing is so important. So as it relates to leading ourselves, those are the 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself. The next one is working together. My quote, if you did it alone, you could have done it better. That's original. You're welcome. I made that up. There's very few things in life that doing by yourself is the best way to do it. Hot yoga is probably one. Like, you shouldn't be participating with someone else. Like, if you're participating in hot yoga. Have you guys ever watched hot yoga?
Have you ever done hot yoga?
No.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, but alone, right?
No.
No, I mean like.
I don't want to do hot yoga.
Yeah. No, I mean in the setting in a class it's fine. But like when we were at the beach a couple days ago, and there were these 2 girls doing yoga on the beach, and I felt like there was going to be lesbian sex on the beach. It was so uncomfortable for me. I was like, you guys need more space between you. You need really that there are children present. I mean, it got so intense and uncomfortable that we were like, okay. That was maybe not in a class. I think it's great, but I'm talking about individualized. If you did it alone, we'll move on. You could have done better. Let's just quote Paul, the Apostle Paul. It'll be much better. So that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear you that you are standing firm in one spirit. Look at this next phrase: with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. Paul was like, after Jesus, the greatest equipper and empowerer and releaser that I know of. And this is going back to something we talked about when we first started as a team. The best teams embrace and practice the values of communication and collaboration. When we don't collaborate, people feel isolated. When we don't communicate, people feel frustrated. And the best way to show your team that you value them is by actively engaging with them to get things done. God knew what he was doing when he created us to be good at different things. That was purposeful. Don't ever look at someone else and go, man, I wish I was. I wish I had. I wish I could. Your gifts have purpose and meaning for your life. And it's when we put all of them together that we get great things done. We honor him and and we honor each other by working together to serve the church. So questions when it comes to working together that you need to do, like a personal evaluation. Do you gravitate towards collaboration or isolation? Like, what's your bent? Like, what's your default? Do you just prefer to kind of get your assignment and go off into the corner? If that's your bent or your default, you need to challenge yourself in that area. How can I expand? How can I grow in trusting other people with my idea? Sometimes what's hard to do is you come up with an idea and you're like, this is the best idea ever. And then you're like, I don't want to tell other people because they might not think it's the best idea ever, and then it won't happen, and then I'm married to my idea. I would say be married to team first and ideas second, because healthy teams produce really great ideas. And so be open-handed with that. Can my teammates count on me to add value to our projects? You don't have to be the best ideator, you don't have to be the best project manager, but when someone says, hey, I want to pick your brain about, or hey, let's talk about, can we collaborate on, are you someone that people look at and say, I want to connect with her or him because they add value? Like, they'll give me really good feedback about what this is I'm talking about. They'll really help me strategize maybe the best way to handle that situation on my team with that really difficult person. Or, man, my electric guitarist comes every week and he is not rehearsed or prepared. Let me connect with Taylor about some best practices to get, like, those are the kind of conversations that just need to be organically happening across the team. Because that's just what helps you be a better leader, and it empowers someone else on your team who's got a lot of knowledge in that area to kind of speak into. And those are the things that we go, hey man, that was awesome. That those three things, I shared that with him, and he's doing those, and he's gotten better. That's like a win. That's like a huge win. Am I encouraging and celebrating my teammates? I'm not going to mandate this again. I like to see things happen organically, but I just want the culture of our team to become one in which, and I think we've made a lot of strides, where we are just on our own recognizing and seeing what God's doing in the lives of each other, and we're going, dude, you killed it at Woodcrest. That was amazing. That was so, like, and you're finding people, and you're finding ways to celebrate them, and you're especially when you're being led in worship by someone on your team, because you know so well the weight and the pressure and the rigor that when you get to come into, it doesn't happen often for you guys, but like think about staff meetings or like minister ceremonies or a weekend where you have off, or if you're leading on Sunday and you're at Hunter Park or East Valley on a Saturday, just to affirm and encourage and celebrate what you experienced and what you saw, because you guys know how that carries you, especially if you had a rough rehearsal or you had a rough run through, or you were waiting on production for something and you didn't get as much time as you wanted. All of those things that are going on in your mind up here, and you're like, I'm in here, for someone who's outside of that to go, this was a sacred space for me today. That's your like, okay, thank you, I need to hear that. You can just ride on encouragement for days and days. So keep that in mind. All right, using our gifts. He's given you a gift so that you can be a gift to others. I really tried to unpack this at our last all-team gathering, but it's so important for us. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. I don't know why God chose to gift you as a vocalist, as a musician. I don't know why he chose to gift me. We'll just have to have that conversation one day in heaven. He didn't give it to everybody. Yesterday we were at the minister's licensing ceremony. Worship was phenomenal. Tim did a great job. His team was great. The set was great. Energy was just all so good. And everybody was just really singing. And when we got to the beginning of the third song, Adam goes, man, my throat. I don't think I can sing anymore. Like, he was like, I don't know how you guys do that. It was like this fresh realization of, when you're singing full blast for a long time, and now of course he's singing it correctly, but that's neither here nor there. But it was just this like, this is hard, like, you know? And it is. We put a lot of wear and tear on our voices and on our hands when we're playing instruments, and it goes through a lot. But for whatever reason, you've been gifted, and I've been gifted. gifted. Amber's in the back going, I wasn't gifted, guys. Like, look, you are gifted, and you know what? We love you. But it's for a reason. We may never know why God's chosen to give us the musical gifts that we have. But what we do know is that in giving them to us, He wants us to serve Him by leading the church in worship. And worship is how we express our gratitude to God for who He is and what He's done. This is like the most important thing I want you to remember. We have the humble privilege and holy responsibility to lead people into the presence of God using the gifts He's entrusted to us. We don't lead them there by reading poems. We don't lead them there by doing dance. We don't lead them there. We lead them there through the musical gifts that He's entrusted to us. And He didn't, and you walk out in that room, and it sets us apart. Because the gifts represented out there are different than the gifts represented in here. And when you read through the Psalms and you read through all the ways that David was connecting with God, and you become aware of what worship means to God, that should make you in awe of the musical gifts that He's given you. That when He created you before the foundations of the earth, He said, I choose Krista. I choose Morgan. I'm choosing Eddie. I'm choosing Pablo. I'm choosing to give them these gifts that are really from me, because they can't, I can't take a tone deaf singer and make them a great singer. They don't possess the natural ability to begin to work with. I'm sorry, Amber, she's looking like Adam and I thought about this week. She's like, give me voice lessons. I'm like, babe, I can't. Like, I gave you a piano lesson once when we were dating. We got in a big fight and we left arguing because he was like, I was trying to teach you lazy lie and you wanted to do this, but you can't do this without doing this, and you got mad. Like, it's just, you weren't gifted, you weren't entrusted, you have different ones. But the fact that the gifts that we have is the vehicle by which God wants to bring people into His presence to be transformed by Him. We need to sit, you need to find time to sit in the fact of what a humble privilege and holy responsibility that is. We should never get over this. What an incredible honor, and yet, conviction, we're tempted to wing it. I can execute, I know those 3 songs, I can just bang those out, and it won't take me any time. I can play that without even looking at it. I know the chords. And rely on our natural abilities instead of honing our craft and becoming better at what we do. I remember the day that I learned that Celine Dion still took voice lessons. I was like, why? You are a bazillionaire. You get this was back when she was the thing. Okay, I'm old. But you have sold out shows like throughout the year, and but she still had a voice coach, and she was still trying to, watch an interview, extend her range, become more solid. And I'm like, if Celine Dion's trying to become more solid, what are we doing, right? Like, we're trying to be solid, right, for 3 weekends in a row. She's up there every night, and that takes incredible technique and savvy. But as you think about how you lead and what you're doing, you need to be constantly self-assessing and self-evaluating how you can become better. If you're a worship leader who feels like on stage you're very still and like I'm not sure if I should move around, then one of your goals for this year should be, how do I become more expressive in worship in a way that's authentic to who I am, right? You don't have to be me, you don't have to be Tim, you don't have to be someone else who goes borderline Pentecostal every time. That's not authentically who you are. But I'll tell you this, when we're worshiping, for my husband to do this, he is in a place, right, for him to do this. I do this, I'm like, what are we singing? Hindsight? Oh, there we go. With who you are authentically, you need to evaluate, but you need to remember that your expressiveness on stage for so many people is the gateway to them being uninhibited in their expressiveness as they worship. And if we're like tentative and I can't move and I don't know what comes next and I'm just staring at my iPad, then we're exuding a confining mentality that we want to free people from. And so start thinking about, how can I learn my songs better How can I play without looking at my chord sheets as much, so that I can be in the room and be aware of what's happening, and close my eyes when it's appropriate, and not play when the other leads got it, and just be in, like, how can I do that? That's honing your craft. That's like buckling down. So you're now taking it past, I learned all my songs. Check. That's a given. Like, we shouldn't even be talking about that in this room. Now it's, I know my songs, and I'm leading people through them. I know the structure. I know what I'm saying in between this song to this song, so that I'm just taking people on a journey. They're not watching me to look at my directions. My directions are here. I know where I'm going. Those are the things that we need to be focused on. If you're like, man, I can play these songs, but not this song, then take some time out of your week and focus on that song. Man, my voice is consistently tired. I need to figure out, I need to get online and find some local tools. By the way, I'm purchasing some local tools that I'm going to start circulating across this team. But there's stuff out there online that we can use, that we can put to, I can't do voice lessons anymore, I'm sorry. My Taylor, we had that. So I was like, now that you're the worship director, we're doing voice lessons. Like, actually, no, I just got busier than I was before. But there's lots of online stuff. I reached out to one of the best vocal coaches in the country that I know of, to actually come here and do a training with our team. We can afford it. Because we have to be protecting this instrument that's inside. And just knowing how to do that, and knowing how to expand our range, and know how to maneuver through songs, knowing how to have a really strong chest voice and a really solid head voice, but having a really strong mixed voice is so huge in terms of how you lead people and how people listen. When people are listening to your tone and it sounds like it's way far away from theirs, they don't sing. So learning how to have a controlled mixed register is really important. And those are like the nitty gritty things that we can start working on this year to help everybody get better vocally. I spent more time there because I don't know how to make you better on electric guitar. You just should get better, okay? You should just work on it, okay? Next question is, do I practice gratitude and thanking God for the gifts He's given me? When's the last time, before you just started singing the song in the car, you said, God, thank you for giving me the gift of singing. Like, thank you for making me good at this. Like, imagine your life without your voice. Imagine your life without the ability to just riff your way through like, just imagine, right? It would be sad. I would be devastated. I would be sad. But God's given it to you. And you know what? There's people who had the gift and they lost it, like Mariah Carey. Sorry, Susan, hashtag. Even Whitney Houston, before, like, just not caring for it, not taking care of it. I mean, it's a gift that we have to steward. How am I getting better? We've been talking about that. How am I getting better? What am I pursuing? What am I doing? One of the best things that you can do is, if you say, let's use an acoustic guitar for example. If you evaluate yourself and say, I'm a B, like I'm a B acoustic guitarist, right? If I'm just being real, that's where I am. But I want to get to an A. We have a lot of A acoustic guitarists like around. So how about you go, hey, could I get some time with you to talk about, or man, I can play the acoustic, I can play the electric. Sometimes we are short on bass. I wonder if I could get some time with Delon or Matt Ritchie to get some, like, that's how you're adding and contributing value to our team. Okay? Am I stewarding my gifts to the best of my ability? When you're leading on the weekend, you know, I shouldn't have to say, hey, Friday night, please don't be at the game screaming and yelling, and like, you just can't do that anymore. You just have to cheer in your heart. You have to golf clap, you know? There's just things that you can do. You know, you shouldn't be consuming large amounts of alcohol for a lot of reasons, but that's another one. Like, it's terrible for your voice. It's, you know, those are just things that you need to be thinking of. What are some good practices before I go sing for 5 services? Well, resting your voice, lots of water and hot tea, avoiding certain things that thicken mucus and make it harder. Like, those are just self-care tips that help you steward your gifts and take care of your abilities, okay? Using our gifts. All right. Empowering others. Your greatest investment in the kingdom of God may not be something you do, but someone you empowered along the way. I love the visual of being in heaven one day and having conversations with people or a person who somewhere along the way God gave me a chance to influence. And they took that small offering, and they went out and like blew things like wide open. They took, something we studied or talked about or did. We have to all be thinking through this empowering mindset. It's not just my responsibility. It's not just Christina's with Rogo. It is all of our responsibilities in this room that we are empowering others. Their calling is to nurture and prepare all the holy believers to do their own works of ministry. And as they do this, they will enlarge and build up the body of Christ. You're worship leading in 2019. Who's worship leading in 2049 at Sandals Park? See, I gave you a nice 30-year runway there. Mm-hmm. Who's leading next to you in 2020, in 2025? Who's coming up behind you in Sandals Youth? Like, who's going to lead that in 10 years when you've maybe moved on to something else, or 5 years? We should spend more time thinking about our spiritual lineage. Who have we been spiritual mothers and fathers to? Who are we pouring into and equipping to do the work they were called to do? I've been doing this long enough to say there is no greater joy in ministry than to spend time investing in others and watching them flourish. This is really important, especially for you young bucks. Investing in others has nothing to do with how old you are or how long you've been in ministry. When you start to think, I don't know what I would, that's enemy territory. You need to just rebuke that. You just need to, because what was Jesus doing? He was calling the disciples and they knew nothing. He was like, come follow me. And within a really short amount of time, he was like, okay, now go out. I want you to go cast out demons. They're like, what? Huh? Me? And they came back and we didn't do it right. He's like, it's okay. Like, that's all what empowering looks like. It looks like handing over a verbal and that guy or that girl getting the worst cotton mouth you've ever experienced and going, that's okay. That's okay. If you've ever heard the story of Kim Walker, Jesus Culture, the first time Brian and Jen Johnson asked her to lead worship at Bethel, she got so nervous she ran off the stage. Like, ran off the stage. Kim Walker Smith, Jesus Culture. She was like, and I thought for sure they were going to be like, you know what? You are a good vocalist. You can keep singing, but you're never. But they said, no, Kim. This is what God's called you to do. This is what we're going to take another stab at this. And now, look at her. Empowering people. And sometimes along the way, you do realize, okay, maybe it's not in that role. Maybe it's in something different. But you keep giving people opportunities. And people feel empowered to lead when they have your relational equity in the bank. Mm-hmm. It's not just, hey, I heard about you. I think you're good. Hey, why don't you come up with me, Woodcrest? We'll try. And then you don't talk to her again. No, it's in relationship. Mm-hmm. It's why your mentor relationship with your person in Rogo School of Worship really, really matters. Mm-hmm. Because their confidence this year, so much of it is going to stem from their one-on-one time with you, what they're learning from you, what you're able to give them insights on, your intentionality in building a relationship with them. And listen, sometimes you're like, well, I don't know who to invest in. We took care of that for you. We were like, it's her. It's it, right? You don't have to go, Lord. Nope, the Lord already spoke, and here they are, okay? And that's not to say when you have capacity and time that you invest in others, you look for ways to bring people into what you're doing. Our relationships stem from we need to have worship and cultivate. And so that was how my connection with Danielle really came to be a thing and blossomed and flourished into a deeper relationship than just work. And giving her opportunities and watching her flourish to the point where this past year I was like, I don't need to lead. I don't need to manage. I just need to be in the loop because she's got it. She knows what she's doing. And these are opportunities for her to grow and for her to exercise her leadership gifts and for her to troubleshoot, how to work through that. And I'll be there to go, hey, here's what I think you should do. Here's a conversation I think you need to have. Yes, I support that approach. And then I just get to be led in worship by her. And just kind of sit inside that moment and be grateful. Rather than I'm trying to spin that plate and this plate and this plate and this plate. It's so, so important. this is how the gospel will continue to have an impact on the world. And this is how worship will flow down for generations to come. Like, there's just no greater joy. So here's important questions to ask. Who am I investing in? We've answered that for you. You're welcome. Do I hoard ministry or the spotlight? Like in moments of quiet and moments of self-reflection, wrestle through that and don't just go, no, I think wrestle through, I was in a meeting a few weeks ago and Pastor Matt was in the meeting. He was complimenting something that had happened and he was just complimenting it and really saying like how great it was. And everyone in the room knew who was responsible for the thing he was talking about. But he was ready to move on. And you heard, it was like, I need Pastor Matt to know that that was my idea. Like, I need him to make sure that he doesn't think we all did this, but like, you know. And later he came back, he was like, did you pick up on that? He was like, man, that's not cool, that's unhealthy. And I was like, yeah, and we're all guilty of that at some point, right? We're all, we want to get to a place in our lives as followers of Jesus where we all work on something, we all collaborate, we all have a piece of it. And Dan Zavardi's when he goes, hey Pablo. And we all go, yay Pablo. Like, awesome. Not like, but me too. We need to get to a place where we love singing that song, we love leading out on that song, but we're leading and we go, no Stephanie, you sing that. No Brittany, you take that. No, I don't need to be the, you can be the. And you have to balance that out with wisdom, right? Sometimes we give away opportunities, right? I think I should have kept some of that for myself. I think I should be leading rehearsal, not eating Del Taco while he's trying to figure out how to lead rehearsal and doesn't know how to do it. You have to balance that because empowering someone means you equip them first, right? We have a whole equip, empower, release. That's how we do it. We don't just go. The first time Adam ever spoke, like gave a message in a church service ever in his entire life, we had visited a friend over Thanksgiving break. It was a small church, but still, Adam was a 5. We don't want to be put on the spot for anything. And we're leaving the church service on a Sunday morning, and the pastor of the church says to him, hey brother, that's how you know it's like, hey brother, God told me you're supposed to preach tonight. And Adam tells her, he's like, God didn't tell me that. And he, all afternoon, he just was like sitting on the laundry room floor, I've never, that's not what we're talking about. Okay. We're talking about, I want you to pray for the offering. I want you to make the announcements. We're going to take these steps up too. But it becomes a part of your DNA that you're looking for ways to empower others. You're looking for ministry to give away. You're looking for people who do that thing better than you do it and go, hey, I want you to have a bigger stake in this. I want to come alongside of you. I want to help you. I want you to be successful. You're not throwing at them and walking away. You're walking alongside of them. And a huge piece of this is really important for our team, is feedback. And it's going to be a newer part of our culture in 2019 when we talk about feedback and we're receptive to it. That when I was at Marina Valley a couple weeks ago, I kept connected with Delon after. Delon, I loved when you said this was so good. And then we talked about it, and he's like, I didn't feel good about it. We troubleshooted together. Delon didn't go off and cry and be like, it was just like we talked about it. That's what healthy collaboration and healthy teams do. When I am sitting here talking about our team, he will say, hey, let me help you think through a way to, and I don't go, you don't think I know what I'm doing? No, I go, yeah, please, because Dan's led at mega levels higher than I have. So I'm like, okay, and then what do you think we should do? And we just have to be receptive to that. We have to be really open to that and receiving that from each other. Like from each other. If I say, hey, I was out there and that sounded really high, we need to bring it down. No one's against you. Like we talked about something this week in Hunter Park. I was like, got it. Like there's not animosity or weirdness or, well, you think you're, that's all rooted in pride. It's all rooted in pride. We all have to we just have to like booth that out. Like, that's not who we are. That's not what we're about. We're about authenticity. And so we go, hey, I think this would make it better. I think this would help you do that better, because we all are cheering for each other, wanting each other to succeed. So that's got to be a part of the DNA. How am I expanding? Sorry. How am I expanding my influence in the kingdom of God? I want my legacy to outlive my life. I want your legacy to outlive your life. I want people to still be going at this with all they've got well after we've moved on. Like, well after our time is up, there's people who've continued, and there's people who've, because we invested, because we cared, because we empowered. So I want you to spend some time thinking about how you're doing empowering others, and take this opportunity, starting today, to like, man, I get to do this with Princess, with Daniel, with Anthony. Listen, we're gonna get into our goals, but if we don't get this right, we don't achieve a lot of our goals for the year. I'm just gonna we don't, and we'll look at those together. So last thing, as each one of us choose to embrace and live out these values, we will, not we hope to, not we probably, not chances are good, we will build a dynamic worship culture across Sandals Church. As you self-assess, here's how I'm leading myself, man. I'm deeper in the Word this year than I've ever been before. I cannot wait to lead worship on Sunday, because my time with God this week has been so rich and full that He's been so good to me. I want the person coming in who's like, I want them to know like the goodness of God, right? Man, we had such a great week this week, collaborating with each other. I can't wait to get into the office and fist pump Taylor for the thing he did, and Krissa, and like, I can't wait to just get together and talk about it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get out and invite more people to be part of our team. I'm not over in a corner giving everybody the middle finger in my mind because I don't like anybody on my team, or I don't want to work here. These all just play into the dynamic worship culture that we have. All right, so I'm just going to plow through these. These are not necessarily in any order, but this is the highest priority, okay? This is numero uno, most important thing that we're going to talk about. Team goal and areas of focus. Goals, good goals have to be measurable. So we can't just go, we're going to do this. Here's how we're going to do it. So increase the level of excellence in the worship experience at every campus. Winging it is out the door. Singing the same stuff that people really don't have to rehearse is out the door. Predictable services where we go 1, 2, 3, out the door. None of that's on the table anymore. We don't do that anymore. That's not who we are. I heard This Is Amazing Grace last night, and I started to get a twitch. I was like, sorry, it's a great song. We sang the life out of that. So we're going to increase the number of new songs that we do. But thank me, because I am holding Danielle and Pablo back. I'm like, halt for 1 second, okay? But that just means more disciplined personal rehearsal time and really disciplined, efficient group rehearsal times, which is doable. We can do that. However, just know that's when we're moving. There's going to be a worship leader evaluation process this year. Please don't get diarrhea when I say that. Too late. Jay Porter, I don't know who brings this up, but Pablo had an accident. If we're saying to you we want to help, we want you to get better, you can't do that apart from feedback, right? I did a cooking class once, and then it was like, this isn't good. I was like, okay, I don't. And the feedback was like I had blown through like most of the instructions because I just wanted it to be done. It's not my forte, it's not my area. Self-evaluation, that's where we're going to start. Okay, we're going to create a self-evaluation form that you're just looking at you. Like, you're just looking at you as a worship leader. Here are my ruts. Been doing this for, super long. I haven't been doing this but for a few months. Regardless of where you are, you're looking at yourself and you're evaluating. I think I'm doing well here. I think I need work here. These are the areas where I'm concentrating on. And then there's going to be an observation feedback where another worship leader comes and gets to experience, and then knows, okay, here's the things you're working on. I thought you did a really great job with this. Your real focus tradition was 4.5 minutes. We're gonna need that. We're gonna need to cut that by 4 minutes. Like, we have to have those kind of conversations, right? Because that's really important. Coaching. I don't just expect for you guys to just, how am I gonna get better? And then I want to help provide coaching so that we're helping you become the best worship leader that you can be. So that you look back a year from now and you go, I set these goals and I feel so much more confident. I feel so much more prepared. I don't feel intimidated when I get a team that I don't know. Like, we just help you get you better. And we're still putting a lot of that into place, but that's what's coming. And then the ultimate goal is by the middle of the year to really create individualized development plans. So for some of you, it's going to be like, really concentrate on your vocals. Like, you've got to strengthen your vocals. Your range has to become a little bit bigger. Your tone needs to become fuller. Those kind of things. For some of you, it'll be, on your instrument that you're playing, but you don't. It's not the kind of thing where if we take away your iPad, you get diarrhea. But you're getting to a place where, like, you have really honed your craft and learned these songs, and you feel really confident in those things. In how you're leading your team and how you're building your team, which leads us to the next one. This is a huge emphasis for 2019 for campus worship leaders to recruit, build, and lead dynamic campus self-sustaining teams. We've put this into motion. We have a lot of ways to go, but I just want you to know in our one-on-ones, this is going to keep coming up. How are you doing? If you have your one-on-ones with Christina, how are you doing with building your team? How are you doing, if you are not a campus worship leader, how are you doing with recruiting people to audition and join the team? How much is that coming up in your conversation? That needs to be a huge part of that. And then that you're leading your team. Like, when you get to a place where, man, this is my East Valley team. They know that Pablo is their leader. They trust him. He cares for them. He knows when something big is happening in their life. He's established a relationship where people feel comfortable to share. I'm not going to micromanage how you do that. In terms of, if you have a get together, I have to manage your budgets. Like, you can't be like, we just going to write a tabs. We just thought that would be great. Can't do that.
No, don't do that.
You can get them Krispy Kreme or something like that, but be creative, be strategic. Hey, I'm gonna have a I'm gonna have a gathering on Sunday night at East Valley for my team. Yeah, let's talk about what we could do to make that really special. Because I want you investing in them. They will play better. They will not decline as much. They will show up and work hard when they believe that you're for them. If they're a musician filling a hole, they'll decline all the time. Right, Delon? They'll be like, I can't. Like, we want self-sustaining teams at the campus. And I know that before I came into this role, there was discussion about whether this is what we're doing. This is the direction we're headed, how we're going. It's 100%. Everyone is on board with this. Campus pastors, John Brown, Dan Zimbardi, everyone's in support. This is the way that we're going. Provide training and resources to better equip our campus worship leaders, and not just our campus worship leaders, but all of our worship leaders. So the worship forum that starts next week, this is intentional investment into you. It's going to be awesome. It's going to look pretty, because there's other people I know who can do that. We just get to sit around and hear Pastor Matt's heart for worship for our church, his heart for you, which we just haven't been able to connect on since I've been here, honestly. I think there was one time when we had some sort of a worship production meeting with Matt. But as the person who's setting him up every week, it's a really vital relationship. It's really, really important. And I want you guys to hear directly from him. I don't want to always be, well, Pastor Matt thinks, Pastor Matt. I want you guys to hear for yourself. I want you to get to be able to ask him questions. The purpose of these worship forums are to replenish you. I'm going to feed you Maddie-licious food, by the way, it's really good, and resource you. So every time there's going to be some sort of resourcing that's helping you get better, because I'm committed to that as your leader. We're going to be working on creating a dynamic online worship experience. Eddie is working with me on this right now, but we want to move past the Hunter Park room experience being what you're experiencing if you're watching a laptop. So we're putting intentionality. We have a great place to start, I think, to build off of in order to make that happen. I don't know if you caught any of the online worship experience for Christmas Eve, but we put more work into that service to structure it for an online audience. So like literally when we did the envelopes, online host came on, there was a digital envelope for them to open. We catered it towards them. So that's what we're looking to do, like how we have a worship set, but then there's Eddie like standing in the woods somewhere with a real focus transition just for the people who are watching online, not for the people in the room. That the worship experience they're hearing and seeing isn't us going, yeah, you guys sound great. How do they know if we sound great? Like it's for them, and we're gonna put a lot of intentionality behind that this year. You guys, I want to raise up our next campus worship leaders from within our Robo School of Worship. We've made a lot of progress with Lake Arrowhead, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have that kind of set. We've made a lot of progress with Garrett Jarbo, and so there's a possibility that will become his campus. But for San Bernardino and for the other campuses coming on the horizon, I really want us to be raising them up. I really want us to be sending out people that we've equipped and we've trained and we've empowered, just because I think that builds a dynamic worship culture. They're in the culture, they know it. It's what they experience. We're going to put a lot of energy and effort into our young adult worship culture. I think that there's something really amazing happening at Palm on Sunday nights, and we want to put some legs and some weight behind exploring that and thinking about how do we build and sustain something amazing through there. We're going to get worship leaders out of that more than any other place in our church other than youth. But when they leave youth, that's where they're headed, is to young adults. So to establish a pipeline. Taylor's working with a junior, and she's really amazing, and he's giving her opportunities. And then she's starting to come over and start to lead alongside of Danielle for young. Like when you look at Hillsong, that's exactly what they do. They start building their worship leaders way before Young and Free. Youth camps, all that stuff, their colleges help. But Brian Houston, I went to a conference where he said, I'm not taking your best people, we're raising them up ourselves. I was like, wow, that was intense, Brian, but okay. No. But he was like, I don't need to go to Stephen Furtick and go, I need your best. I don't need to take you from Elevation. I don't need to go over to my friend Bill Johnson at Bethel and go, we're raising them up right here. I want all of us to get the mindset that we're going to raise them up right here. We're going to raise up Sandals worship leaders here. And then we're going to put a lot of effort into creating and providing resources to better train, equip, and support our volunteers. A gap that we have on our team right now, there's two, but I'm going to talk about both of them. The first one is a guy comes into auditions and he's okay, but he's not good enough. We don't have anything to give him to help him get better to come back and audition in 3 or 4 months. We say, hey, we really hope that you, and maybe you work on it, and I want to close that gap this year. I want us to have online tutorials for songs that we sing, for songs that we play. Get on there, here's our YouTube channel, you're playing through these songs. Then I want us to create something where we're going, hey, come to rehearsal and just play along, like watch and observe and look what our electric guitarists are responsible for, to get an idea of what we need you to do. I want us to close that gap this year. And we have the people, the personnel, the resources within this team to do that. And then another gap we have on our team is they're on our team because they had the basics that we needed, but now we need to help her go from being a VGV to a lead vocal. Like, you guys need to have solid lead vocals at all of your campuses. So what resourcing and training can we go, hey, take this for the next 4 to 6 weeks and work on this on your own time. This is an online experience that you can do, and you can be singing through the songs that we're singing, strengthening your voice all along the way. We need to work on that gap too, because we need to be equipping and resourcing our volunteers, because the better they get, the more they want to serve, the more dynamic the worship experience is across our campuses. It all goes together. Okay, so those are our goals. So when you think this year about, let's talk about what we didn't see on there. writing and producing an original song, I'm not saying we can't, I'm not saying we won't, I'm saying it's not on our highest list of goals for this year, because we need to really hit the ground running with these other things. There's not gonna be a worship night, like that we put a lot of energy into, because for this year with our goals, that ends up being what I call mission drift. So we have this mission that we're working towards, and I want you to take any energy and ideas and excitement that you would want to put to a worship night into the worship experience on the weekend. I don't want to tax our volunteers or take time away from your work week when you're supposed to be working on these other things to go, and now we're going to create another thing. I love worship nights. I see in the future a Sandals worship night similar to Cultivate, where we're recording a live Sandals worship album with lots of original songs and a few covers, and we just get to put all of our resources behind that. But that has to take a backseat to these other things until we've established a lot of these things. Because listen, we're probably going to launch 2, maybe 3 campuses in 2019. So those are more teams, more volunteers, more campus worship leaders. So we have to keep the main thing the main thing. But the healthier our team gets, the easier it is to go, okay, now in 2020, let's plan an epic worship night like for our church. And what can that look like, and what can we do, and all of that kind of stuff. So these are the dates of the worship forums. I wanted to get them all out in front of you for the year, so that you can just look at your calendar now and go, okay, we're going to have 5, so I'm not trying to clog up your calendar. They're going to be on Tuesday nights. Most of them are going to be here. We're going to transform the deck. Not we, something else is going to do that. That's what's going to happen. And again, these are just a really high priority for me. So for all of our worship leaders, if you're like, we planned a trip to Hawaii, you can miss. If it's, I normally get my hair done the 5th Tuesday of every, could you reschedule that? Like I want these to be a really sacred, important time for our team. So you have those on your calendar, and then we're going to have 2. You can go to the next one. 2 all-team gatherings this year. So we're going to have one in March. We're going to have one in October. These are going to be things that we are going to really we'll cancel rehearsal like we normally do. We just want to get all of our teams there. So as your campus, we might even have a competition. I love competition as an 8, but you too, right? But I want you to get your whole team there. Like your responsibilities, and like you get your Woodcrest volunteers, you get your Hunter Park. Like we want our whole teams at these, because we cast vision, we celebrate, we inform, we challenge, we encourage. In March, we're going to revisit the commitment statement that we launched in November. But it's their chance to feel like they're a part of something really huge. If there's a volunteer from Banning who only ever plays at Banning, and we're so grateful for the Banning team, but they don't ever get to rub shoulders or see or hear from anybody else across Sandals, that can start to feel isolated. That can start to feel like we're on an island out here, and we don't want that. So these are the chances for our teams to really come together, to meet each other, to pray for each other, to worship together, to be led in worship rather than leading. So please make sure that you have those on your calendar. And then I am working on, it's not going to be a conference, but I didn't know that until now. Sorry. We're going to do something for our team. I think I can share this. I'm pretty sure I can. We'll see. There's not going to be a ginormous staff retreat this year. The staff teams are going to go by departments, because it's really hard to now find housing for 200 and some people. So there'll be it will be grouped, with another department. But we're going to do something just for us, just for the worship. So I have some ideas that I'm thinking about. One of the things that I'm really leaning towards is Hillsong United comes to LA in June. So I'm thinking about maybe we get a house in Newport Beach and we spend a day together strategizing, planning, praying, connecting, go to their concert as a kind of a refreshment for our souls to be led in worship, have some really good food, and just be together. and do some intentional training there rather than go to like a 3-day conference. Which just right now with our team, that feels hard, especially because the Heaven Come was like all day Saturday, Friday, Thursday night. That's a detriment to our campuses. But I actually like the idea of maybe hosting a vocal training here for us, maybe some of our high capacity volunteers, but then us getting away, just our team, to the beach because why would we? Good. And then do something like Hillsong United together. Elevation comes the end of March. We will be adding some people to our team, so I'm hoping that will all be done for the year by May, so that way we can all go together. But that's what I'm thinking about, and as soon as I have anything nailed down concrete, you'll be the first to know so that you can mark it out. So I just did a load of talking, but I felt like it was important to just get it all out there. I know it was a data dump, but if you have a question, a comment, you're so excited and everyone needs to know, you don't know what I mean by getting better, like whatever your questions or comments are, now's the time the floor is open to you. Sorry for those of you watching, you can send your questions to me via Slack.